Lafourche Parish School Board to order. We'll start with an invocation by Mr. Barry Bezos, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Lafourche.
Loving and merciful God, we are grateful for another opportunity to gather together to do the work of our beloved school district. Allow the business we conduct here tonight to reflect your kingdom, breathe life into our ideas and decisions, and help us to build a team with love and respect at its heart. May we be a shining example of your truth and magnificent beauty. Further, grant us the humility to seek your will in all that we do and say. We ask this, all of this, in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Steve, roll call.
Ms. Babbitt?
Here.
Ms. Bell?
Here.
Ms. Thomas?
Here.
Ms. Fertitta?
Here.
Mr. Bootery?
Yeah.
Dr. Guillot?
Here.
Ms. Bourgeois?
Here.
Mr. Dufresne?
Here.
Mr. Schwest?
Here.
Mr. Plaisance?
Here.
Mr. Duplantis?
Here.
Mr. Long?
Here.
Mr. Archer?
Here.
Mr. Bernard?
Here.
Ms. Chabert?
Here.
Okay.
E, introduce new district staff member. Mr. Martin.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to introduce, I'm happy to introduce our new transportation supervisor coming to us from Bible Middle School, Mr. Toby Hubbard.
First off, I want to thank Mr. Martin for giving me the opportunity, and I want the board to know I'm really looking forward to working with you guys dealing with transportation in the parish. Very exciting moment. But I really want to also thank Ms. Matthews that's been in the department. She has done a huge amount of work and showed me a lot of stuff in the last 2 weeks that I've been here, hitting the ground running. And lastly, I really want to tell the bus drivers a huge thank you for everything they've been doing. And I've been reaching out to each one personally, and I've gotten nothing but positive feedback from all of them. And I'm really looking forward to working with a group of drivers that are just really great people. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 2, approval of board consent agenda. A, approval of board consent agenda items. B, minutes of regular board meeting held Wednesday, October 6, 2021. Can I get a motion? Motion by Ms. Marion Fertitta, seconded by Ms. Valerie Bourgeois. Any comment? If not, we'll vote. Item passes unanimously. Item 3, approval of policy and procedure committee recommendations as per meeting held October 19, 2021. Dr. Guillot?
To approve revisions to policy BH, school board ethics, ID curriculum, IDCC, kindergarten, JBA, compulsory school attendance ages, JBC, school administration, admissions, thank you, JBCE, public school choice, JR, student records, and the new policy IDDFC, cameras in special education classrooms. I so move.
Motion by Dr. Guillot, seconded by Mr. Raymond. Any public comment? Any board comment? If not, we'll vote. Motion passes. Item 4, approval of Land and Facilities Management Committee recommendations as per meeting held October 19th, 2021. Mr. Long?
Thank you. Item A is to accept a change order to add a total of 37 additional days to the contract due to inclement weather for the months of August 2021, 19 days, and September 2021, 18 days, for the new Thibodeau Middle School project. So moved.
Motion by Mr. Long, seconded by Mr. Al Archer. Any public comment? Any board comment?
Just a question.
Yes, Mr. Lee?
What is the anticipated completion date now with the project? Because I know we've added several days in the last couple of meetings. Do we have an idea?
No, sir. I don't think that the date has necessarily, the end date has changed as a result of the additional days. I think we're probably still on track, believe it or not, because of the cushion that is allowed through the construction project in its entirety.
Any further questions? Let's vote. Item carries.
Item B, to accept a change order to add a total of 35 additional days to the contract due to inclement weather for the months of August 2021, 5 days, and September 2021, 30 days, for the new cafeteria project at South Rose Elementary School. So moved.
Motion by Mr. Long, seconded by Mr. Randy Schwest. Any public comment? Any board comment? We'll vote. Item carries.
Thank you. Item C, to authorize to advertise for bids when construction documents are complete for the safety tax Phase 6 project. So moved.
Motion by Mr. Long, seconded by Mr. Barry Plaisance. Any public comment? Any board comment? We'll vote. Item passes.
Item D, to accept the high bid in the amount of $4.87 per acre, or $2,650 annually, from Chad Guidry, DBA Big Jim Seafood, for hunting and fishing privileges on Section 16, Township 21S, Range 22E, Leeville area. So moved.
Motion by Mr. Long, seconded by Ms. Valerie Bourgeois. Any public comment? Any board comment? We'll vote. Item passes.
Item E, to accept a request to hire New York Associates for repairs to the athletic fields at South Lafourche High School and Central Lafourche High School due to Hurricane Ida. So moved.
Motion by Mr. Long, seconded by Dr. Dennis Guillot. Any public comment? Any board comment? Yes, Mr. Plaisance.
I know Mr. Plaisance is not here, Mr. Devin. I mean, is there, I know they did assessments, I guess I'm asking the superintendent.
Yes, sir.
I know they did assessments a couple weeks ago. I mean, are we in line for them to really start moving forward pretty quick on repairs to obviously both these facilities?
So both item E and F, which is the work at the Thibodeau High School athletic fields, are top priorities. We've given the architects a short window to get out of the design phase and get into the construction phase. We also have Mr. Jared Rowe on the ground even before the architects begin the permanent repair work, which they're going to be asked to do to get the fields where they can be occupied and start practicing the games on it. So to answer your question completely, I would say that we're optimistic that it'll get done quickly, but there will likely be some disruption because of the construction phase. And as soon as they're cleared for play, I'll update the board on one of my Friday updates to let you know that they're going to get in the field in practice. But my understanding today is that they still cannot.
Any further? Ms. Matita?
Yeah, I have a question. Were the turf fields messed up any, or is it just stadium itself?
We had minor damage to the turf fields in Central Lafourche and South Lafourche. They're able to be repaired, and I believe that the repair work on those fields has already been done. Is that right, Mr. Delta? So the repair work that's required for the athletic facilities is largely fences, bleachers, the fence posts, press boxes, those sorts of things. Work is beginning at the South Lafourche High School Stadium tomorrow by virtue of GIS doing some donation work to get that campus up and running. They're going to correct the fencing on the stadium, and we're optimistic that we'll host a football game there this season if we can get the facility safe. It won't involve the press box being completed, but and these athletic fields, they're important. We're trying to get them up and running quickly.
Not just for football, it's important for band, but everybody else.
Band, soccer, and the whole gamut's coming right behind.
Thank you.
Community itself. Okay. Any further comments? Okay, let's vote. Item passes.
Item F, to accept a request to hire Grover Flores and Positeri Architects for the design and bidding of the work needed on Thibodeau High School athletic fields due to Hurricane Ida. So moved.
Motion by Mr. Long, seconded by Mr. Barry Plaisance. Any public comment? Any board comment? We'll vote. Item passes.
Item G, to accept a request to hire Gosson, Holloway, and Cortez for roof repairs at the Rose Cutoff Middle School due to Hurricane Ida. So moved.
Motion by Mr. Long, seconded by Mr. Clyde Duplantis. Any public comment? Any board comment? We'll vote. Item carries.
Item H, to accept a request to hire Groves, Flores, and Positeri Architects for roof and building repairs to North Rose Elementary School due to Hurricane Ida. So moved.
Motion by Mr. Long, seconded by Ms. Marion Petita. Any public comment? Any board comment? We'll vote. Motion passes.
Item I, to accept a request to hire Jeremy Bruce Architects for repairs at South Lafourche High School due to Hurricane Ida. So moved.
Motion by Mr. Long, seconded by Ms. Christie Chabert. Any public comment? Any board comment? We'll vote. Item passes.
Item J, to consider a request to enter into a 20-year lease agreement in the amount of $1 per year with the Choctaw Volunteer Fire Department for the existing fire station located on Section 16 property at 6th Ward Middle School. So moved.
Motion by Mr. Tim Long, seconded by Dr. Dennis Guillot. Any public comment? Any board comment? We'll vote. Motion passes. Item 5, new business. A, to consider modifying policy CEI, evaluation of the superintendent. Mr. Bernard?
Yes, the post-evaluation of our superintendent was initially to be completed in June and January. However, it was interrupted in the past due to the closing of the school in May and the Christmas holidays in December. So to give our board members a little cushion in the post-evaluation of the superintendent, we'd like to move that post-observation to July and February of each year to ensure adequate time is allowed for members of the board to monitor and also to complete the evaluation cycle.
Can I get a motion? Okay, motion by Mr. Bernard, seconded by Mr. Tim Long. Any public comment? Any board discussion? If none, we'll vote. Motion passes. Item B, to consider adopting a resolution authorizing the Lafourche Parish School Board to join with the state of Louisiana and other local governmental units as a participant in the Louisiana State Local Government Opioid Litigation Memorandum of Understanding and take appropriate action.
We have Mr. Walter Leger here, so members of the board. Mr. Leger is representing a lot of governmental agencies in this ongoing litigation, so he can give you a brief overview of what's happening statewide. Mr. Leger?
How do you do? And I'm going to try to be very brief, but if you want more detail, we can do that too. My name is Walter Leger. Matt Landry with my firm is with me also. I had the honor of representing you several years ago in the BP litigation, and I met with you several times during that period of time. We represented Lafourche Parish and most of the local governments in South Louisiana and negotiated that settlement on behalf of all the local governments. I have the honor of having been retained by you to represent you initially to file a claim in the Purdue bankruptcy, in which you were given notice that you were listed as a potential claimant. And as a consequence of that, we were requested to also look into filing a lawsuit against the various opioid defendants, manufacturers, and distributors, similar to those filed by most of the local governments in Louisiana and by 3,000 other local governments across the United States. We represented the state of Louisiana in the tobacco litigation as well several years ago when I was a young, skinnier lawyer. And we had a lot of experience in that regard. This litigation was in many ways, has been and continues to be more complex in the sense that we had 45 clients in the tobacco litigation, 45 states. There are 3,000 counties in America, 19,000 municipalities in the United States. And all of them are in one way or another involved in this settlement against manufacturers and otherwise in this horrible epidemic. The federal judge in Cleveland said that this was the largest man-made epidemic in history, 20 years in the making. 3 of the major distributors, and I'll get right to it, there are about 30 defendants that you authorized us to file suit against. 3 of the major distributors and one of the manufacturers, Johnson & Johnson, have entered into a settlement or proposed settlement with all of the local governments in the United States. And it's been done on a state-by-state basis. On behalf of the local governments, we represent the parish of Lafourche, we represent other parishes, City of New Orleans, St. Bernard, St. Tammany, cities across the state, and essentially we have been organizing the 45 law firms that represent local governments in negotiations with our Attorney General. As a consequence of the national settlement, based on a very complex formula and based on objective criteria, $26 billion is being put up by these defendants essentially over an 18-year period. But it has to be divided among all the local governments and all the states. What we did was develop a complex formula based on opioid deaths, opioid prescriptions per capita in the state, and opioid use disorder and population to some degree. To that extent, Louisiana is allocated about 1.5% of the $26 billion. That ends up being, depending on how you count it, about $325 million to $350 million over 18 years. Then we had to negotiate with the Attorney General how we share it. The default, if a deal couldn't be cut with the Attorney General by the local governments, was the state would get 15%, the local governments would get 15%, and then 70% would go into a fund to do opioid abatement programs. We eventually negotiated what we believe is the best settlement with the state in the United States. 100% of the money will go to fund programs by the local governments. You will not, you're one of the few school boards that actually filed a lawsuit. The national settlement doesn't contemplate school boards, but our view was, by your filing a lawsuit, you get to at least be a player in the development of the program that will be funded by these funds to fight this horrible epidemic. And what will happen is the money is allocated by parish and to Lafourche Parish, and in this case, and then it's grouped into Department of Health districts. I think you're district number 2 or 3. Anyway, during the district of Terrebonne and St. James, St. John, St. Charles, Assumption, etc., for Department of Health purposes. You will get no cash, unlike the BP settlement, where you got plenty cash. But what you will have, we learned from the tobacco settlement, we represented the state of Louisiana, we brought $4.6 million back to the state. The governor immediately grabbed it, put it in the general fund and balanced the budget, and didn't fight cigarette smoking. Didn't fight for helping people quit, didn't fight or replenish the funds from the Medicaid dollars that were spent to fight disease and otherwise, and we learned. And therefore this settlement, all the money has to go toward programming to fight the opioid epidemic. What you will be able to do by joining in this settlement is apply for programming probably with the parish, through the parish, and there's attached to the settlement is 13 pages of approved prevention, abatement, education programs to help deal with the opioid epidemic. You'll be a partner essentially with the parish and other parishes in developing programs on a local level to help abate this problem based on expertise and knowledge of experts that have been retained. The settlement provides for supervision by a task force in the state of Louisiana made up of the Municipal Association, the Police Jury Association, Sheriff's Association, an appointee of the Health Department, an appointee by the governor of an expert. And so again, no cash, but the hope is what little money there is, and this is not anything like in terms of the BP settlement, actual dollars, or in terms of the tobacco settlement, but at least we have some funds to put toward fighting this horrible epidemic, which you probably see, and your teachers see, and your families see on the local level through the schools and otherwise. So we're proud to offer you, we've been able to bring this settlement to you. There's going to be more. This also, by the way, it also provides for injunctive relief, that these companies cannot sell prescription opioid drugs, cannot distribute it, and have to follow strict guidelines on how it is distributed and reported. If it's over-distributed, like we've seen, it gets reported and stopped. So there are a lot of I could go on and on. It's a very, very complex settlement. But the fact of the matter is we need you to agree to dismiss your lawsuit, join in the settlement, because the money that comes to Louisiana is based on 100% of the over 100 local governments that have filed suit in the state of Louisiana joining in. If we don't get one, we get penalized, and we don't get all of the money. So in any event, we're proud to bring this to you, and I've been very proud to represent you, even though you didn't even know I was representing you probably. We were very proud and a pleasure to have met Mr. Martin. Madam Chair, if there are any questions, we'll be happy to answer.
I have a motion from Dr. Dennis Diaz, seconded by Mr. Bootery. Okay, any public comment? Any board comment, any board discussion? Ms. Fertitta?
I serve on the Lafourche Parish Friends of the Drug Court, and I see what happens to families that where someone in the family is addicted to opioids, and this is a very, very serious problem in our parish, and I think this is a wonderful way for us to provide help for these people, for the families and for the people that are addicted.
Well, thank you. I think we all know people who have lost someone to an opioid overdose as well,
Right.
and hopefully we can make a dent in this problem.
Anyone else?
Call the question.
Thank you, sir.
Question.
If not, we'll vote. Motion passes. Thank you very much, Mr. Lejeune. We do appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Again, very honored. Thank you very much. A little pen copy of the signed resolution, if you don't mind, sent to the Attorney General.
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6, memorial resolutions. A, Ms. Claudette Dewey, retired child nutrition technician. Mr. Ray Bernard.
Mrs. Claudia Dewey was hired by the Lafourche Parish School District on September 1st, 1982 as a child nutrition technician at Gold Meadow Lower Elementary School. Mrs. Dewey also worked at Gold Meadow Upper Elementary School and Gold Meadow Middle School during her career. Mrs. Dewey retired on December 10th, 1992, having served the Lafourche Parish School District for a total of 10 years.
B, Ms. Judith Simmons, retired teacher. Mr. Duplantis.
Ms. Judith Simmons was hired by the Lafourche Parish District on January 28, 1980 as a teacher at Bayou Blue Elementary School. She also taught at Thibodeau Elementary School during her career. Ms. Simmons retired on May 26, 2006, having served the Lafourche Parish School District for a total of 25 and a half years.
Yes, Ms. Fertitta.
I just want to mention, most people don't recognize Judith because everybody called her Judy. And she was a very dear friend of mine. And she was a very, very religious person and a wonderful artist. And she did teach for just a little bit while at South Thibodeau. So I just, very sorry that for her family, and just that she rests in peace.
Thank you, Ms. Fertitta. C, Mr. David Sneed, retired teacher. Mr. Richard Bootery.
Mr. David Sneed was hired by the Lafourche Parish School District on January 12, 2009 as a teacher at Thibodeau High School. Mr. Sneed retired on August 1st, 2021, having served the Lafourche Parish School District for a total of 12 and a half years.
D, Mr. Octave Bernard Jr., retired teacher. Ms. Robin Bell.
Mr. Octave Bernard Jr. was hired by the Lafourche Parish School District on August 24, 1962 as a teacher at Thibodeau High School. He also taught at West Thibodeau Junior High during his career. Mr. Bernard retired on July the 1st, 1988, having served the Lafourche Parish School District for a total of 26 years.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Mr. Bootery.
Just a comment, Mr. Bernard was a friend of mine and a client of mine for many, many years. And a finer man as finer man as you would ever meet. He was just a gentle giant, He was in his prime. He was a big man, played football at Northwestern, and, but just as good a person as you'd ever meet.
Yes, Mr. Bernard.
The name Bernard, we must be related somewhere. in the
Yeah, but he was a little bigger than you.
Yeah. But on a side note, in addition to being a big guy, he was an excellent coach both at the public and parochial school system. And he was All-State and at Northwestern, if I remember correctly, an All-American.
I believe you're right.
So this was, and I agree with you, anybody who saw Octave just fell in love with him. But he was a gentle giant and a heck of an athlete.
Thank you very much. Let the record reflect that these resolutions were adopted by general consent and will be recorded on a special page of our minutes. Item 7, to receive an update from Superintendent Martin on the current operations within the school district.
Thank you, Madam President. In human resources, Mr. Bill and Mr. Lee have been busy. We did have the unfortunate matter, Hurricane Ida displaced some of our employees. We've had 4 teachers and 4 paraprofessionals that were displaced, and as a result of their displacement did in fact resign from their positions, but we were able to fill all of those teacher vacancies since we've reopened. So right now in Lafourche Parish Schools, we actually have 0 teacher vacancies. So kudos to Mr. Bill and to our team.
Well done.
Good job. Good job.
Yeah, very, very difficult right now. As you know, the labor shortage around the nation right now, teachers are always in the conversation. What is still a problem is bus drivers. And Mr. Hubbard and I speak daily about that shortage, and we're working hard to correct that. As far as enrollment goes, on the same note, given to me this morning, before storm versus after storm, we're actually down 102 students. Considering that we have over 14,000 students, that's actually a very low number. And what we have found, many of our students in the southern part of the region, in fact, did have to leave, and many of them enrolled in schools when they left. But because we were able to open our schools rather quickly and our community was able to rebound very quickly, many of them are already back. And so to break the numbers down further, the northern schools gained 36 students. The central area schools lost 24 students, and the South Lafourche area lost 112 students. Compared to last year's MFP count, we're down 450 students for the year. We had a normal ebb and flow drop of around 300, so this 100 put us at about 450. So it is a drop, but I don't think it's one that's going to create financial havoc on our school system. And we're optimistic that by February, when the second account occurs, many of these displaced students will return. School operations, Bayou Buff and Golden Meadow students are still not on their campus. Golden Meadow students, as you know, are still at the upper elementary. The upper elementary students are still combined with the lower elementary students. That change, though, is going to be an enduring change, speaking of the elementary transition, because that was a transition we were likely going to put into place for next school year. And so we already have an architect working with those 2 principals at the now Golden Meadow Elementary School to devise a new office space and make that an enduring change. We've brought some shipping containers onto the campus to satisfy some of the immediate storage needs, and Golden Meadow Middle School is actually liking being at the upper elementary. The teachers, when they open their doors, they can see all of the other teachers, and when the kids walk out of their classrooms, they can see all of their peers. So Mr. Melanson has bragged about how the close confines of the building has aided in the rebuilding of not only his infrastructure, but his community of children. So we're working very closely with the architects and the contractors to get Golden Meadow Middle School back up and running in its original location. And the first place that we're looking at is that gymnasium. There is a gymnasium shortage, if you haven't heard, south of the Intercoastal. So both of South Lafourche gyms are taken out. Rose Cutoff Middle School's gym is taken out, and Golden Meadow Middle School's gym is not operational, but it's the closest to operational. So what we're attempting to do is get that one up and running, and then quickly try to get a gym in either South Lafourche or La Rose up and running, because so many of our sports and PE classes need those gyms. You can't do volleyball and basketball without them. So we were actually blessed in that, make sure I get these names right, Galliano Elementary School has what used to be a high school gymnasium inside of it. So we're going to get that gym up and running to free up space, get Golden Meadows gym up and running. That'll at least give us 2. And then as soon as we can get LCO and South Lafourche gyms up and running, we can start to better serve our volleyball and basketball and fill-in-the-blank communities down the line. So we're going to be using the governmental complex in Lockport. We're going to be sharing the gym at Central Lafourche High School. And with any luck, the floors at Lockport Middle School and Bible Middle School will come back to their pre-storm life once again. We had some slight buckling in those floors, but we put some dehumidifiers and our mitigation team did a good job of remediating. Moving north, Bayou Buff Elementary is still split between 6th Ward Middle School and Shackville Elementary. That is not an enduring change, and we hope to begin the permanent repair work at Bayou Buff Elementary soon. And the bigger picture in terms of school operations as we pivot this update to the financial side of the school district is crafting a plan from where we are today to permanent repairs being complete and paid for. That is a really complex thing and a complex process that's going to both involve the architects and the business team coming together with what has to happen and then how are we going to fund that and getting the funds on the front end and then getting FEMA reimbursed on the back end. So we do not yet have that complete plan. All South is putting that plan together, and I hope to have the complete plan ready for review and approval soon. But the next Land and Facilities Committee meeting will be a full one, as we are hoping to have architects assigned to all of the schools. And you're likely going to start hearing architecture firms that you've never heard before, simply because the breadth of the work is so great that we're going to have to get services from outside vendors to get the projects done in a timely manner. Because you cannot bid the work until you get the designs done, and we need the designs done yesterday. So more to follow on that. South Lafourche High School is still being mitigated for extensive water damage and wind damage. The teams are still in South Lafourche High School. South Lafourche High School is still operating under a hybrid model where the kids go to school every other day. But I will tell you that I was in a geometry class this week, and there was a young teacher there just knocking it out the park with both the students that were physically there and the students that were at home, zooming into the classroom. So she had a laptop up in front of her, and there was the Brady Bunch kids at home on the little grid there, and they're able to raise their hands, ask questions in real time with their teacher. And this is happening throughout all of the core classrooms at South Lafourche. So the MiFis that Mr. Chauvin provided, the Chromebooks Mr. Chauvin provided, the upgraded hardware that the teachers are using at South Lafourche High School is paying huge dividends right now for those kids on those days when they're not physically on campus. On the financial picture, we have nothing but grim news. Property taxes are not only going to be late, but they're going to be at a reduced amount because the assessor by law has to reassess the value of everybody's property and take into account damage from the hurricane. Where we usually get paid in January, February, we may be getting paid as late as April or May. So not only will it not be as much, but it's going to be delayed, so it could potentially create some cash flow issues in the spring, and Ms. LaFawn already has a plan to bridge those gaps, but those are challenges you need to be aware of. We're beginning to get invoices for the mitigation work at a very feverish pace now. The mitigation work will be expensive. I expressed to this board already. We're anticipating a bill for just the mitigation to be anywhere between $18 to $20 million spread between the three subs that did that work. And when you don't have the FEMA money on the front end, again, you're reliant on the insurance money. We've been told by the insurance company that we should get the first $8 million of our $20 million claim this week. I'm optimistic that that does come to fruition, and then we'll get the remaining $12 million in the coming months. Again, I spoke about the process to get permanent repair work done, and it will likely involve borrowing money from the state bonding agency. And Ms. Lafourche and I have been meeting with some financial consultants and people that do this on a regular basis. We met with the gentleman that worked in Parish, and his team was able to bridge the gap between where you are now and funding permanent repair. And we hope to have something to committee in the coming months about that as well. On the teaching and learning front, we are now getting finally back started in our literacy program called AIM. That PD is getting up and running once again, and the same with our NEAT training. We are back on schedule with transitioning our school district from being a Compass district to being a NEAT district. We're beginning with our administrators and our coaches and our leaders becoming trained in this, and then of course transitioning to our teachers being evaluated in the NEAT rubric. On the COVID front, we are seeing very improved numbers. This is a welcome sign after a very rough start to the school year. In August, we frequently had over 1,000 students quarantined because of positives that were over 300 at any given time amongst our students. Today, that number is less than 50, and the number of quarantining students is less than 300. So COVID numbers are headed in the right direction. Our staff COVID-related numbers are headed in the right direction. We currently have less than 5 teachers that are suffering with the disease, and that number is down from more than 30 in August. So we hope to see that trend continue, but we'll keep you updated with the changes. In closing, I spoke to Ms. Fertitta today, who's been very active in the redistricting process, and I would remind all of you that you do need to look at your district and the changing lines of that district. And please, if you have any concerns or favor any of the options that Ms. Fertitta's team presented, contact Mr. Josh Manning at the South Central Planning. As the timeline is quickly approaching, I believe, Ms. Fertitta, correct me if I'm wrong, but by December, we have to have decisions made for that new district. So that completes my report, and thank you all, and I'll answer any questions.
Questions? Anyone? Just Ms. Fertitta?
I do have one comment, as you're looking at your maps about the redistricting. It might be a wise idea for you to talk with the councilman too. That's what we did. We talked to the councilman to kind of get an idea of where they are. And so that might be another starting point for you, but definitely please contact Josh Manning if you have any questions.
Yes, Mr. Bernard?
And the whole process has to be completed by March at the latest date, the whole process. So definitely your parish councilman will be a big asset in sitting down and discussing agreements.
And don't, we have to have the maps in place by December.
Right.
Because it's got to go to the U.S. Department or wherever, and Justice Department. And so we have to have it into them by March. So there's still a lot of work to be done. And there will be some public hearings, and I urge you please try to attend those. And our next meeting is the 10th.
Yes,
yes. November 10th. Yes. So please, if you're, it'll be at the government complex. You're invited. Please come and join in with us and help us with the conversations that are going on.
And I would also like to add to that Mr. Manning has opened up his office to any one of us that have questions. They have offered to meet with us, to have us go in and look, or to Zoom conversations as well. So everybody has received the email from Mr. Manning. If you have any questions or anything, please make sure that you reach out to him. Any questions or discussion? I'm sorry. No, I don't know.
Mr. Martin, I know there was some conversation between board members and some agenda items brought up and withdrawn. Could you just give an update so everyone's on the same page regarding the latest COVID protocols that we're following?
Absolutely, yes, sir. You had presented an agenda item, and of course, with the governor's declaration to give an allowance for boards to opt out of the mask mandate, elected to withdraw it. And I'd like to explain why that is and how we got to that place. Before the lifting of the mask mandate, school districts had the option to follow the protocol set forth by the CDC or not. That had really been in place for the entirety of the school year, and the vast majority of school systems were in lockstep with the Centers for Disease Control and the Department of Education. The Department of Education made an unprecedented move, I believe about 3 weeks ago, and broke ranks with the Department of Health and had given guidance that school districts could then opt out of the quarantining protocols if they so choose. The Department of Health, of course, said we don't think that's a good idea, and the governor followed suit. Some school districts then stopped adhering strictly to the quarantining protocols. Then the governor lifted the mask mandate, but in doing so said that it still applied to K-12 schools. However, if a school system follows strictly the quarantining protocols, you could in fact opt out of the masking expectation. So what does that mean for us? Well, it means you can have one or the other. You can opt out of the mask mandate and follow the protocols to the letter, or you can keep masking and opt out of the quarantine protocols, but you cannot do both, or you would be in violation of state law. What I recommended to the board and what we had in place already was a policy that made masks optional, and quarantining followed to the letter, which was our return to school plan that this board approved in July. So by virtue of the governor's proclamation, he allowed us to return to the previously board-approved return to school plan without amendment. And so when he declared that mask optional guideline, we were able to go back to what was our original plan. And where we are today is following the original unamended return to school plan, which strongly recommends masking, particularly for unvaccinated individuals, but stops short of requiring it for all people. And we are, in fact, following the quarantining protocols, because to not do so would put us in violation of state law. I'm sorry that was so long. It's the only way to kind of get us there.
Except on school buses.
That is correct. Thank you for pointing that out, Ms. Fertitta. School buses and all forms of public transportation, everyone is required to be masked, which is a federal requirement. Yes, ma'am.
Any further discussion or questions?
Can I have a question? So as far as
Before you approach the board, please state your name and your address. Thank you.
My name's Tisa Acosta, and I'm 322 Elm Drive. I was here before the hurricane. I haven't seen a lot of y'all faces before, but I was at a smaller meeting. And we talked about COVID back then and teacher gaps and stuff. So I understand the mask. We're unmasking, and it's a great thing for my younger kid especially. She's learning her letters. We're learning how to verbalize. She's advancing now. We weren't with the mask on. I get it. But we're still excessive. And I have a high schooler. Our GPA is not what it needs to be, because we were quarantined for the month of August. We hit the hurricane, and we've been out for 2 months already. And plus what we've been dealing with the past couple of years. It's hindering these high school kids for sure. It may not be so much of a gap in the lower administration, but the bigger kids are not getting what they need. I don't know that mom's ready to sit for ACT in December that he's going to sit for. Honestly, he doesn't have what he's ready for. He's a smart kid, but he's still lacking. I just don't, I think the quarantine, and I understand that it's, state or whatever. I just came across this the other day, and it kind of made me laugh. The CDC is saying that our kids have to quarantine, but then Home Today publishes that the CDC updates guidances that says unvaccinated foreign tourists under 18 will not need to quarantine. Why are we quarantining our healthy kids? I mean, what is the CDC doing? I guess y'all can't argue. I know we can't argue legally, but we're hindering our kids. We're not doing any justice for our kids. We're not. And I've been to the Bessie board. I've addressed it with the president of the Bessie board. She shoots me back to my school board. Nobody has answers for anybody. But we have to come up with a better solution for these kids. It's not sustainable. We're going to end up with bombs on the side of the road at the end of all this. Honestly, we have mental problems already because of the quarantining and the COVID that they've had to go through. We're going to end up with bombs on the side of the road. It's just factual. And I'm not just worried about my kid. My kid's about to get out of high school. I'm going to make sure that he has what he needs. But these other kids that don't have parents that are looking out for them are really gonna suffer. They're not gonna make it through life, honestly. There just has to be some kind of consideration and parent choice. We weren't given the parent choice. This parish, I don't think, opted to allow parents. Why did we not get the opportunity to vote for that in the beginning when that was up for, I mean, Terrebonne Parish adopted that, but we never had the opportunity to adopt that here in the beginning. So that, it's just, and it's not just me. I don't have, other people want to talk about it, but they don't have the opportunity because of their jobs and stuff like that. Other people are voicing their opinions outside of here. I'm just able to come and voice opinions of other people. And also, I'm going to bounce to another subject. As far as teachers, we talked about that last time I was here too with my high schooler. We patched our problem. We were without an Algebra 2 teacher. We put a business math teacher in there. It's still not floating. It's a patched our problem. And I know it's a shortage, but I work in the medical field and I have to patch my holes too. Somebody's got to step up somewhere. We have to have an Algebra 2 teacher somewhere. We're lacking. And I don't know if it's funding, budgets, that kind of stuff that we need to make better for these teachers. Insurance, I don't know what the answer is. I'm willing to look into these things for these teachers, but we have to do this for our students. I mean, it's something that we have to look into, make better quality. But my kid needs that he needs Algebra 2. There's no question about that. And then my last thing that I would like that the public would like more too, more transparency. Like, are we getting funding for COVID mandates? Are we sure? Like, do we? Okay, all right. So we just need to be more transparent with that kind of stuff too, and let the parents know, because parents don't, you know, they think they have choices and they don't have choices, as many choices as they think they have out there. So I think we can do a better job of that as well. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 7. Item 8, tentative dates of future meetings. A, Policy and Procedure Committee, Tuesday, November 16, 2021. B, Transportation Committee, Tuesday, November 16, 2021. C, Land and Facilities Management Committee, Tuesday, November 16, 2021. D, Insurance Committee, Wednesday, November 17, 2021. E, Finance Committee, Wednesday, November 17, 2021. F, Academics Committee, Wednesday, November 17, 2021. G, Advisory Committee, Monday, November 29, 2021. And H, Regular Board Meeting, Wednesday, December 1st, 2021 at 6 p.m. Is there any further discussion? If not, the meeting is adjourned.